living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
Those are the words, of course, of Philip K. Dick, who is a prophet of the future, and the future is right now. This is the time. We are occupying all spectrums of time and frequency. And today's guest, Cary Buchanan, will tap into that. She is a practicing psychic, a full-time psychic. She is one of the premier psychics on a network called Keen, as well as having her own private practice. And we'll get into talking with Cary in just a moment. In the meantime, welcome to the show. This is Robert Phoenix, and you're listening to the Friday FARcast. As you can see, I'm talking over the intro today. I'm trying something new, and I'm doing it manually because it's the only way I can do it. Now, next time, I'll have a kind of a potted down version so I can be able to talk over the top of it. My producer, thumbs up. Welcome to the show. It's another Friday, and it seems like the Fridays are getting freakier and freakier and freakier every time we get together. We live in incredibly strange times where everything seems upside down, and we're dealing with the so-called Mandela effect, where things apparently are getting changed right before our very eyes, which relates back to what Philip K. Dick talks about in the intro about variables getting changed, the variables happening, and timelines being altered. Sometimes they're altered by fragments, fractals, moments, degrees. And as a result, everything gets changed. We don't always have to have one major shocking moment where everything pivots and turns on a dime. Case in point, recently, one of the things that I talked about astrologically was an aspect that occurred in Donald Trump's chart. And that was this Mars retrograde. He's got one more Mars retrograde cycle, by the way. Mars is moving forward. Finally, Trump has his Mars in Leo at 26 degrees, and there's going to be a Mars-Mars square coming up one more time in Trump's chart. But the last Mars square was basically in sync with what looked, for all intents and purposes, to be an assassination attempt on his life, where some dupe decided that they were going to steal a gun from an officer that was guarding the event and then kill Trump. Now, perhaps on another timeline, this actually occurred. But on this timeline, it didn't. Does that make sense? So we're going to talk about some of these things with Cary because being a psychic, theoretically she will have some insight into time and destiny and predictive models. And perhaps we can even get into what she sees is happening and will happen over the course of the next 6 months. This is one of the most pivotal times that we've been in. This is an incredibly important phase and stage of our evolution, both here in this country and in countries around the world. We are seeing the effects of globalism and the dominance of globalism being challenged. Some people are asking, is this just another Trojan horse, a ploy to lead us down another path where we become more disillusioned and more disempowered? Or is it really a change in the tides? Does Brexit signify something greater, a new form of liberation, or liberation back to an older time where we were more self-determined and less dependent upon NGOs and groups and associations and nonprofits and the conglomeration of a form of governance which places the individual last and the group first. We're going to find out all this and more as I bring on my guests. So let's waste no further time and bring on Miss Cary Buchanan. Hi there, Cary.
Hello, Robert. Thank you for having me today. I look forward to our time together.
It's my pleasure having you on. Let me just give some folks some background here as to how we got connected. We're Facebook friends, and I'm not even sure how we became Facebook friends, but over the course of the holiday, we started to connect a little bit, and our vibrations started to sort of move in sync and began to communicate. And I thought you'd be an interesting guest, because every now and then I do have people that are psychics and intuitives on, and it's always interesting to find out, more about them and what their take on reality is, and have people get a taste of what it is that you do. So thanks for coming on the show. How did we connect on Facebook, by the way? I'm curious. Do you remember it all?
Robert, I really do not. It possibly could be with just your name of Robert Phoenix. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. The name of my company is Phoenix Group, and it's the Phoenix Rising. And I just felt a connection. And if I remember correctly, I believe I friended you. I sent a friend request.
Yeah, I think that was it. You and I talked about this this past week, where we were kind of getting to know each other a little bit, and that whole Phoenix connection. I told you my story about how I was reading tarot. I was going across the country, and I was in Atlanta for the Olympics. I was about 2 blocks away from that bomb before it went off. Wow. There was I'm sure you remember, I don't know if it's still there or not, but they had the House of Blues, which was right next to the Olympic Village. You remember that?
Of course I remember that. And I believe that the House of Blues is still there. It's called Centennial Park. It's where the bomb went off, which was something that I had predicted for Atlanta to watch out for. And I don't believe that they ever really got the correct perpetrator of that bomb.
No, they didn't. They didn't. And my cynical side says that the perpetrator was a lot closer to them than they really would like to let on. And Richard Jewell, unfortunately, was a terrible scapegoat for the whole thing, and wound up really being a hero and kind of foiling even more destruction and violence than had actually happened. But you remember this too, is that right after that happened, they passed that anti-terror bill. I mean, it was just like, here we go. This is the cycle for these events. And
that's right.
And then that was 1996. So we're roughly about 5 years out from the Patriot Act, which was being worked on at that time at AEI, American Enterprise Institute, and Brookings, and Kagan, and all of his associates there. So that's where I was. I was right across from the House of Blues. I was doing tarot readings at the House of Blues. I'd follow the shade. In the morning, the shade was across the street. And in the afternoon, the shade would shift, and I'd go over to the House of Blues. So wherever the shade was, I would go, and I was there for almost the entire of the Olympics. I left after the bomb went off, and it was very weird. That next day was really cloudy and overcast, and I eventually came back and kind of finished everything up there. So, I saw the manhole cover for the Phoenix, and thought, so this is an interesting connection that you and I have. Let's talk about you. Let's get into your path and how you evolved towards your current role as a psychic, intuitive, counselor, guide, consultant, all that good stuff.
Okay, Robert, I want to say first of all that I believe that we're all three in which you can tune in to that inner self. And there are people that have perfected this and trust it, and it just comes natural. And also, I do believe that it's in the DNA. And I come from a family of back in the 1940s and 30s. I had two aunts that were psychics in Bryson City, North Carolina, and they had a storefront, and people came from all over the world to visit them for readings. And at the time, like it's still thought of a lot now, you know, there were gypsies, which were actually off the reservation. My mother's Native American, and they were, you know, it's an intrigue. With psychics, I think they have a stigma. I think they look for the gypsy, the crystal ball. I don't think that that's as prevalent as it used to be, but there's still a stigma attached with the word psychic. And
right.
I find that when people meet me in person, the first reaction I get is, "You're a psychic?" And I say, "No, well, let me pull out my crystal ball and my long red fingernails." But I do think it's in the DNA. I do think that psychic ability has come a long way. Companies employ psychics as extra information to see what can be coming for them in the future. Our government employs psychics. So it's a coming of age with psychic ability, but it's always been around. The oracles, people with that can talk to the other side, psychic mediums. So there are various ways of communicating, but I feel like the bottom line for psychics is not with the woo-woo effect, I call it, but to give people information to make good choices in their life. You know, life is choice, not chance. And so information that a psychic can give should be helpful in lighting a person's pathway in life, or it
right.
can be helpful in so many ways for them to be able to change. You can literally change what can happen with in destiny by knowing what's coming. So, and then some people, you know, it's up to that individual. You know, you can listen or not listen, but the information can be put out there.
So this is an interesting question about destiny and the nature of reality. So let's say you are engaged with a client and you have an impression, a hit, clairvoyant moment. You talk about a future event. And let's say, for instance, this client does nothing to act on the event. Just by looking at the event itself and bringing it to light, do you have the potential of altering and changing that event simply by bringing attention to it? Or do you make the event become more solid, more tangible, more real by, you know, clarifying it, illuminating it, and bringing it to light? And are the two both equally true?
Well, again, I think that life is choice, not chance. I hear so many times when I put information, and they'll come back and they'll tell me, "Cary, okay, don't tell me I told you so." So, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I hear that. I find that the people that I read, they're mainly repeat people. I have my clientele. It's very hard for me to open up to new clients. I've been doing that in the last 6 months, a little bit more. But because the information that I've put out to them, and they've learned with me over the years that I've been correct with it, it keeps them coming back. And so that's the real, as they say, the truth in the pudding, Robert. You know, you go to a psychic, and if what they tell you happens, well, then you know they have a gift. If it doesn't happen, then, and give it a certain amount of time, because timing can be difficult, then I don't know if you'd ever want to go back to that psychic again. It's a process when a person chooses their advisor or their psychic. But, again, if what the information that person receives turns out to be credible, and the event happens, then, that gives the psychic that read the person credibility. That's what I find in my practice as being a psychic.
How do you deal with bad news or something that looks negative? How do you deal with that? How do you share it? Where's your touch on this very sensitive point?
Well, Robert, that's a great question, and it's really difficult. I am here to tell the truth as I see it, and in case to circumvent something that could be a catastrophe in a person's life, I try to present it in such a way that it won't alienate a person or scare the daylights out of them. So I'm a little bit unique, I feel, as a psychic, and people know me for this. I use my Bible in my reading. Like you said, you use tarot cards. I have my Bible, like right now I have my Bible in my lap. But when a person comes to me in person, and I do a lot of phone readings, but I had an office in Atlanta, I've worked in Miami, I've worked in Nashville, but when a person sits with me, we sit, we center ourselves, I take their hands, I say a prayer that God will guide us. I open my Bible randomly as you would look at a tarot card, and information begins to pour into me. So, again, I'm going to tell the truth. A lot of people don't want to hear the truth, but I do it in the best light possible that I can. And I'll tell you, Robert, it's really hard when I see someone passing away. That's a very, very difficult subject. But, again, I feel that I present it in such a way that it gives them a heads up that, say, if someone is going to pass away, it gives you more time to live a quality life with that person and to know how precious time is with that person.
That's a very sensitive subject. How about when people come to you, say, "Can you see when I'm going to die?" That's a classic one, right?
Not really. Really, I'll tell you with, it may not be for radio talk. With women, I find the classic, most prevalent question I get is, when is he going to call again? It's like in the sweet here and here they're interested in. With guys, it's more, believe it or not, with men, how can I tell if I really make my girlfriend happy, if I've really satisfied my girlfriend? I find that men are very sensitive, much more sensitive than a woman may know, and that they can get insecure if they haven't made their girlfriend happy. So believe it or not, over my 32 years in being a psychic, those are the two most asked questions from men and women. But a reading evolves, okay? It can come on a light note, but then the reading evolves. And you really, as a psychic, you really become a guide for their life, for blueprints for success. And that's really where I see myself. And when I do see these roadblocks in people's lives, I try to help them navigate it in the best way possible. So it's somewhat, Robert, of a life coach on a higher level that you can give them answers. It's the psychologist that won't give you answers and wants you to find out on your own. But a psychic can give you answers to questions in your life. So, it's a big ball of wax. And sometimes, Robert, honestly, when you tell people what they see, you have a whole range of emotions. Sometimes they become very angry. You think that people wouldn't get angry, but they can get angry with what they see. And it's really fear, because I do think anger is fear in a form. It's a form of fear, anger.
Yeah, I would say anger is I think that there are different levels of anger. There are different shades of anger. I would say that there is kind of low-level reactive anger, which could be really fear-based, and then I think there's righteous anger, which has
I agree.
Which has nothing to do with fear at all. About being, I'm sorry. People are sending me comments while I'm talking with you. But no, I think that there's different forms of anger that are applicable in different situations. I wanted to get back to the man-woman thing, which for me, I have my own version of this. I have my own work, and I deal with a lot of relationships or relationship-related issues from an astrological perspective. And one of the things that I have noticed is that there, in certain relationships, not, I would say maybe the bulk where two people are together, straight, heterosexual, male-female relationships, committed, generally married, there is a traditional kind of bifurcation of roles, and that the man is out there making the money. And again, this is, I'm putting this in a kind of a box and a context. The man is out there making the money, working hard, doing, very positive, powerful things to keep the household afloat and all these pieces that go along with it. Mm-hmm. And the woman, partner, wife, maybe they work, maybe they don't work, maybe they work part-time, but they have seemingly more time in their hands. And as a result of this, part of where they go is this kind of spiritual quest or this evolution to find deeper spiritual intimacy in their own life because they're not engaged in a certain form of vocation or occupation. And then what happens is that they look at their relationship and they see that their husband or their partner is not in the same place they are because they made an agreement based on having kids, having a home, having a certain life that's structured to promote that. And yet there is this desire and yearning to have more of that in their lives. And I'm not sure that the two are mutually incompatible, but I also feel like at times people have to understand kind of the original form of agreement that they came to work with each other under. How do you deal with this as a psychic and an intuitive, and how do you help people maybe bridge this gap if indeed that's what you're looking at inside of the reading?
I agree with a lot of what you said, but, I feel like when two people come together that it's very important that they have mutuality and commonality. And I would feel more basic than that they have the same dream in life, the same goals. But what I see happening, and this is what you're saying, that they do come together, and after a while, let's say the man goes in one direction, the woman goes into another direction, and you've lost that goal, that commonality that you came together for and the excitement in the first place. And there's no crime in that, okay? People grow in different ways. It's with the person, whether they want to do the work on themselves as a person to either save that relationship or leave that relationship, be it marriage, be it cohabitation, whatever. A relationship is a relationship. And so I don't see, in what I see today, let me say this, no one can make someone else happy. Two half people cannot make a whole relationship. It is a constant work on yourself and your journey in life. And so when I have a client that comes to me, I try my best to help that client with their journey, because the saying goes, nothing changes till you change. And I find that clients are either going to make their relationship better as they get better and grow in enlightenment, or they're going to leave that relationship because it's outlived its original of what they came together for, or what their goals were. So I find that interesting dynamic. But we do have all the answers within ourselves if we sit with it and trust, but it's such a misconception for, let's say a woman to think, oh, this man is going to take care of me and it's going to make me happy. Nor is it's a terrible misconception with men that think, oh, my wife, I'm going to go work, I'm going to make a big paycheck, I'm going to come home, we're going to have perfect kids, we're going to have a perfect home, and that's the fairy tale. And real life is really not like that. It's always, all of us are all a work in progress. And so the function of a psychic is to show them and to help them be a better person and to look at what their needs are to work on. And you have to be brutally honest with the person and what you see. You have to, it's like an alcoholic, Robert. You also have to admit that you do need to work on your problems. You cannot be in denial. You have to own whatever your part in a relationship is. So, and then again, individually work and then come together to work. You have to want the relationship to work. You have to be committed, because whatever the degree of commitment that you put in your job, your relationship, your world at large, is what you're going to get back out of that commitment. You can't be lukewarm. I feel like today you got to either be in or out to be happy.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I take it one step further. You've either got to be in or out on the planet and planetary experience, and that doesn't mean you're going to go out and slit your wrist. But if you don't want to be here, but some people are actually doing that. I mean, there are people who are choosing to take an early exit, which I do not advocate. By the way, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, from a psychic, intuitive perspective, what are your thoughts on people who take their own lives and what happens to them afterwards? Have you encountered this in your work?
I can truly say that I've never had a client of mine take their life, but I have had clients' children or maybe their husband take their life, and I'm trying to help with the residual effects from that. I feel like it's a simplistic approach. One thing is, I do know that a lot of people have chemical imbalances, and that's a scientific approach. But in that moment, they have such desperation and they see no way out. They're going to take their life, and it's if you could call that moment back, would they not do it? Of course, they would not do it. But it's more about when people lose their hope in life, that there's not going to be a better day. There's not going to be a better future. You hear theologians talk about faith. You got to have faith. You got to have, faith in this. But you know what? For me and what I see with my practice and my clients, my callers, hope is more important, because without hope, I don't think you can have faith that there's going to be a better day. You have to hope and know that something better is coming. And life, we're forever in flux. Our government's in flux. This election cycle we're seeing, one day it's Hillary Clinton, one day it's Donald Trump. The polls say this, the polls say that. So, if people just hold on with their life, be with the moment, live in the moment, they can get past that depression that sends them over the edge. Mental health is a huge ongoing subject, coming more to light than ever before. So, there are women that suffer postpartum depression after they have children, and I believe this is very real, and I think it's hormonal, but I feel like in the past it's been looked at, she's got the baby blues, she's going to get over it. But, you better take it serious when a woman is exhibiting signs of hopelessness and overwhelmed, and, because that woman can kill her children, and we see that in the news all the time. also, it's that overwhelmed feeling. But, Robert, I feel like in our life, as I said a while ago, we're all a work in progress. I don't think that anybody really knows any more than somebody else. It's that we all take each other's hands and that we go towards the road to enlightenment together. I think we're all in this together. I think that it's the ripple effect we're experiencing in the universe today. Again, I hate to bring this up, but I think this election cycle has been an awakening cycle, and people are angry. People are fearful. There's so many mixed messages. Somehow we've got to all come together and make truth of what's going on. And it's really an understanding. There's miscommunications. We have to have a better understanding of what's going on in this world. And frankly, I feel that's where we're evolving to, Robert, is to more communication and better understanding in this world. And that happens. The world changes one person at a time. It doesn't change in one fell swoop. I don't think the hand of God is going to come out of the sky and say, hey, you're changed. It happens as we become enlightened in this world and go towards that enlightenment together.
Right. Well, I would agree with that. And to take it one step further, for people to be able to communicate and to have a shared experience that is not fearful, more loving, more committed, I think there needs to be some form of unifying principle. Because if there's not a unifying principle, then what we have is we have a lot of special interests, special groups, special needs that are all clamoring and standing on a soapbox trying to get them met, and sometimes at the expense of other groups. And we see this, by the way, real quickly. We see this when we have these quote unquote events, whatever they are. Because now we have this unifying principle theoretically around whatever that event is supposed to be driving. So I would agree with you, and I would think that hopefully the unifying principle is sort of this deeper love of God and connection which transcends this world. But that, again, gets into religion, and we get bifurcated again, split across and fragmented into groups. I wanted to ask you a question or two about this election cycle. I wanted to see if we could do a bit of an experiment. We're talking with Cary Buchanan here, who's a psychic based out of a number of different places, Atlanta, Georgia being one of them. Cary, by the way, I love your take. You're not just psychic, you're informed. You see the big picture, so my instincts are pretty good and right on here that you make a good guess and not just talk about psychic work, but sort of the world or the universe at large. So that said, maybe we could do a little something here. You've got your Bible handy. How would you feel about doing bibliomancy right here in this moment for the two presidential candidates? Maybe we start with Clinton first, and then we could go with Trump. How do you feel about that?
First of all, I want to say about this election cycle before I answer this question. No matter how many psychics are in the world, no matter what anybody wants to say, there is a force that holds this universe together and that created us. For me, and this is mine, not somebody else's, for me it's God. People believe in Allah. People believe in Mohammed. But for me, it all goes back to God. And so in saying that, I feel like we are seeing, as in Brexit, as Great Britain exits the European Union, so many people felt that was a surprise. I really predicted they were going to exit. And it's not just the way the United States is feeling about what's going on. People are becoming participants. first of all, did you say Hillary Clinton? Let's look at Hillary Clinton first. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Well, this is, I have my Bible. I randomly opened it to Proverbs, and it's chapter 9, and it says, "Wisdom hath builded her house. She hath hewn out of her 7 pillars. She hath killed her beast. She has mingled her wine. She has also furnished her table. She has sent forth her maidens. She crieth upon the highest places in the city." Well, you would interpret that Hillary Clinton is really going to do good. I think that at this point that Hillary Clinton's worst enemy would be herself. Mm-hmm. And no, I'm not going to say I'm for either party. I do think that Hillary Clinton has made some bad judgments. I think she's got some baggage that she's carrying with her. I feel that this is going to be a really uphill battle for her, and I feel the polls are going to change weekly, monthly. You're going to hear it's Trump here, it's Hillary here. I really think that America has a big problem with Clinton's honesty and trustworthiness, and it's going to be really hard for her to overcome that. I really do see that. I just think that that's going to be her major issue to deal with. And for Donald Trump, yes, he represents all these things, a great American promise, all things new. Is he a cowboy? Yes. Everybody makes promises. Can he keep his promises? Well, we would only know that if he's elected. But what Donald Trump has going for him is the fact that he is being a rebel, and he's saying some things that people want to hear. His worst attribute would be that people think he's rash. It's a part of a love-hate thing with Donald Trump. I feel that when the election happens on November 8th, it may be several days before we know the final results. I also predict there may be a recount. Yep. I also will predict here and now, September, you hear of in an election cycle of an October surprise. We're going to have a September surprise.
Yep, I agree with you.
September is going to be a very, very defining time in this election. Mark my words, big prediction here, very defining time. And to be honest with you, and this is without any kind of bias towards either candidate, I do, and I'm going to say this, I do not feel it's going to be in Hillary Clinton's favor. And so I just think that September is going to be full of surprises. So, and don't be surprised if there could possibly be another candidate that might have to come into the Democratic Party. And I predict this is why Bernie Sanders is so vehement that he is going to go on to the convention, and why he is trying to keep his foot in the door. I feel that he senses that Hillary may really make more missteps, and he wants to be there to capitalize on it. That's a prediction as a psychic. Has nothing to do with my personal feelings at all.
What about Joe Biden? Do you have any psychic hits or predictions around Joe Biden? Because I keep seeing his name in the periphery. Now I don't think he's serious. I don't think he's a serious character, but he doesn't seem to kind of go away. Do you have any sense around Biden?
I think that I honestly think that is another possibility. I do. I feel that. I think that the press keeps playing that there could be a third person in the Republican Party or a second person in the Republican Party, but I feel like there's a great possibility that the Democrats are at risk of Hillary not being able to be electable. And so it could be Biden. I'm reticent to say that I get a big hit on Biden. I really am.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So, but I do think that he's going to be put out there. I think a number of people will be put out there. But, each candidate has made their own missteps, no doubt. Trump and his brashness, Hillary and her untrustworthiness. A lot of people that I see when I'm around this country, I think there's a lot more grassroots movement toward Donald Trump than one might ever know. So I do think that this election will go down in the history books as the most unpredictable, surprised election that's ever been in the history of politics. So we are witnessing history.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. History. And your September prediction is right in alignment with the astrological cycles and having a Mercury retrograde, and Mercury retrograde starting at 29, starts at the 29th degree of Virgo, the anaretic degree, and then it goes backwards and winds up being in square with both Saturn and Neptune. That's going to be a really, really tricky time. So I'm in total agreement with you around this, and it'd be very interesting to see what gets played out. You and I were talking a little about maybe doing a few cold readings here for some folks. Are you still interested in that? You want to do that?
I'm happy to do that. Let's go. I'm
okay,
ready.
Why don't we do this? Let me play some music, and let's see if we can load up the phone lines here. Okay. The call-in number is 347-308-8995, 347-308-8995. And if you want to have, we're going to keep it pretty short, maybe about 3 people max. So first come, first serve. If you want a few minutes here with Cary, why don't you give a call? And I'm going to play some music in the meantime while we get the phone lines hopefully stocked here with some folks that want to have a little bit of a psychic reading. What do I want to play? Let's not make it too long. Sometimes it's better if I actually think about the song I want to play before I do this instead of just jumping into it. Why don't we do, how about a little, here we go, Great Big Water. We're talking about intuition. We're talking about psychic forces. Here is Great Big Water. We'll be back in 5 minutes and 5 seconds. The call-in number, 347-308-8995. Here's your chance to speak with psychic Cary Buchanan. That was Alma Defnuda with Great Big Water. I just love how that song is like a trickle, it's a trickle, it's a trickle, and all of a sudden it's just a raging flood of emotion there at the end. We're talking with our guest today, Cary Buchanan, noted psychic, intuitive counselor based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Cary, welcome back from the break. We got somebody on the line here that wants to talk to you, so let's bring them right on and see what they want to ask you and get into the groove here.
Sure.
Hi, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being on the show. What's your name and where are you calling from? And why don't you go ahead and say hi to Cary and state your question.
Hi, Cary. Hi, Robert. Diane from Los Angeles. And I absolutely love the show. I think you're so on top of it. And my only asking you a question, I got so excited. I'm always asking, really, I know love comes from within. I've been divorced twice. I'm wondering if I will have another long-term relationship, or I'm good alone. So I go back and forth.
I definitely feel there's a third relationship for you. It'll be a lasting relationship. It'll be the best fit. And just remember this, the third time's the charm. That's what comes to me.
Oh, I got goosebumps. That's a really, I loved hearing that. I really did, because is there any chance it'll be within this year, next year, or am I going to be surprised?
First of all, I want you to look at around the time of Thanksgiving in November, and I really feel you'll have a lot to be thankful for at Thanksgiving.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you. That really hit the spot.
You're welcome.
Many blessings. Bye, guys.
Hey, thanks for calling in, Diane. Appreciate it. And don't be a stranger. Keep on listening, okay? Have a great day.
God bless. Bye-bye, Rob.
Okay. Let's throw this out there again. We have the guest call-in line, which is 347-308-8995, 347-308-8995. Here's your chance to speak with Cary. Get a little bit of a live hit on a reading, and maybe we'll find out a little more about Cary along the way. Cary, I have a question since there's nobody else in line here waiting to talk with you. I just got into a new relationship recently, very fresh kind of a deal. Do you have any sense or any hit around kind of what this is about, where it's going? And again, here's the caveat. I am really in the moment with this thing. So whatever you see is fine, and be completely honest.
Okay. Robert, this is your biggest learning relationship that you've ever had in your life. And because this is an authentic relationship for you, and it's got the basis of best friend turned lover kind of feeling to me. And let's say you don't go in the long run to say marriage, she'll always be your best friend. That's what comes to me. So the potential of, if you want to take it to a marriage contract, is there. But I have this is a good match for you spiritually and in wisdom.
I think you're right on. And of course, from an astrological perspective, I've kind of dissected this thing, and wisdom is a key element in it. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Let's take another caller here, and let's see where they're from. So when I hit you, state your name, where you're from, and then why don't you go ahead and share your question with Cary. Here we go.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, this is Keisha. I'm from New York.
Okay, Keisha, ask me your question.
I would like to know, when am I going to meet a man that I have like a serious long-term relationship with?
The first thing that comes to me is that look for, again, around the holidays. I see Christmas, and I also feel that whatever history you've had in relationship is past now, and the person that you're bringing into your life now is going to be someone that you can be with forever. And I mean literally forever. I don't see anything bad, but I just, with what's coming into you.
Well, I deserve it. I agree with that.
In my Bible, I turn to Isaiah, and it says, "Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them." And with that, I feel like you have already known I'm not making any more mistakes. The next time is the it time for me, or I'm not committing. So when Mr. Right comes in, he is Mr. Right for life for you. I'm telling you, I can tell you, I see a long, happy relationship. So no more mistakes with that.
Wow. Good Friday for you. That sounds great.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling in, Keisha. Let's take one more, and let's go here. So go ahead and state your name, where you're calling from, and your question for Cary. Here we go.
Hi, this is Susan in Hawaii, and I talked to Robert on Sunday about a little astrological reading, but we didn't talk about relationships. And I just tuned in, and everybody seems to be asking about what's next with relationships, and I would like with men, and I'd like to understand.
Well, the first thing that I see with a relationship for you, it comes is I get the number 5 around it, and the next thing that I got was May of 2017. Looks outstanding to me for you in a relationship, and I just, I feel you can look at about that time of having a relationship come into your life. Now, with you, I don't know if this is a long-term relationship. I feel that it's going to be the one before the one, so to speak, but I do feel it'll be a nice relationship. But honestly, I'm going to say something that would seem very strange. You may meet the person that you're going to be with for the rest of your life through the next person that comes in your life. That's what I feel. The next one's the precursor, and I feel like you'll meet the relationship you've been looking for through the next person you meet, which will be a love relationship, by the way.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Coming up, roses, Susan. Aloha.
Aloha.
Let me put you back on hold.
Thanks.
Well, thanks, Cary. That was a nice little run there, and each person got kind of a variation and sounded very personal and very connected. Even mine, I think you pretty much nailed mine. Let's talk about how people can find you if they want to do something deeper, go further with you. Where can they do that?
Well, I think the easiest thing would be send me a message on Facebook. I'm under Cary Buchanan, Buchanan, and I'm listed under Asheville, North Carolina, which I have a farm in Asheville, I have a home in Florida, and I have a home in Atlanta. So I'm at my farm most of the time on a mountaintop in Tennessee, where Davy Crockett was born in the same town. And so you can reach me, message me. We can set a time up if you'd like to read with me. I'll be happy, to go and give an in-depth reading.
Excellent. And what about just maybe one or two exercises or things that people can do to sharpen or hone their own intuitive and psychic perceptions? You got any little tricks or tips there for people?
Well, you know what, Robert, I feel like the most important thing to remember is the very first information that comes through to a person when they're making a decision is the most pure information they get. Don't second guess. Don't start playing games with yourself. Trust your first impression. It's usually right.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Cary, it's been great having you on the show. I know you're super busy. You've got a really long client list, so taking an hour or so out of your day is pretty significant. So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome, Robert. Thank you for having me. God bless.
God bless you too. Cary Buchanan, psychic. We'll catch up with you maybe after the election. How does that sound, Cary?
That'd be great, Robert. Or maybe after the September surprise.
There you go. September surprise.
Okay, Robert.
All right, take care, Cary.
Right.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You can find September Surprise down in Golden Corral. I think it's right next to the May Jubilee. Down at Golden Corral in the buffet tray. Remember when you used to go to buffet trays and they would have Jell-O? First of all, you don't see Jell-O at buffet trays anymore. Personally, you just don't see it. But Jell-O used to be this huge thing at the buffet tray, and then they would have various things inside of the Jell-O. Generally, it was fruit. Sometimes you might find a small marshmallow inside the Jell-O. You know where this comes from? This comes from aspic. Jell-O is the modern version of aspic, and aspic it's fat. So back in the day, what they would do is they would render fats out of animals, cows, and they would render the aspic out of the cow, or sometimes it could be fish fat, another form of aspic. And they would put little bits of meat or vegetables or fruits or nuts or a combination inside the aspic, inside the fat. They would serve it. This is what people would eat, aspic. Jell-O is the modern version of aspic. You don't see Jell-O anymore at buffet tables. Probably a pretty good reason for that, since I believe Jell-O is made from what, like pig's hooves or something like that. It's pretty bad. But anyway, you can probably still find it if you're looking for it down at Golden Corral. It is 12 noon here in Austin, Texas, and we got about 30 minutes left on today's show. Pretty interesting getting into the psychic realm and talking about, of course, relationships. So I think the biggest thing now is our relationship with reality. If you've been tracking some of the Mandela effect stuff, it's starting to really explode and go off the chart. The latest is life was like a box of chocolates. Instead of life is like a box of chocolates, Forrest Gump. Fruit Loops. It's all kind of, floating around here, this strange version of reality we're occupying, whatever it is. I was on a show recently with Emily Moyer and Randy Mond, Off Planet Radio. You can find that on Facebook and also on YouTube, Off Planet Radio. And it was a great show, actually. I've known Emily for a few years now. And Emily started off as a client, and now she's doing radio and video with Randy, which is fantastic. And I met Randy for the first time. Great guy, really interesting, knows his shit. So it was a lot of fun just kind of going out there. We talk about the NBA Finals, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Baphomet, Jesus, Sananda, 9/11, birthday of Jesus. The inversion of 9/11 happened, right? 6/11. The Orlando event. It was supposed to be a mirror of 9/11. It didn't fully take place. You remember back about 3 weeks ago on this very same show, we invoked the power of something bigger, right? One or two people walking away, going in the opposite direction, and putting a monkey wrench in the chain of events. Well, we talked about Brexit. Brexit was a big monkey wrench. But I'm going to bring up another scenario that we did not cover, that I'll say perhaps through our intention, through the power of the third eye connected up with the power of the heart, the sacred and divine generator of love, feeling, emotion, compassion, and connection, there was supposed to be another event that was taking place on 6/11. In Santa Monica, California, at a Pride event, there was going to be another Orlando-styled event. They were going to happen simultaneously, or as close to simultaneous as possible. And here we'd have the duality piece because everything was in Gemini on 6/11, East Coast, West Coast. And the guy that was supposed to perpetrate this was not a quote unquote radical Muslim. He was a white boy, likely CIA trained. And the rumor is he turned himself in. Or the other piece is that he was so discombobulated and found out that Omar Mateen didn't make it out of the Pulse nightclub, which, by the way, had no events scheduled for that night. None whatsoever. Still no video from the Pulse. Still no phone video. Now, I have a real good friend, another client, who had a friend who died there. So I've been talking about this as being a hybrid event. And that the word now on the street is that nobody really dies until the SWAT team comes in. I'm not indicting Orlando SWAT. I'm just putting it out there. Judge Napolitano even talked about this. But what we were supposed to have two events. and a death toll that would have reached in excess of 100. Now, could you imagine, having this Orlando event was not great on any level. Whether it's from the cynical reality crisis actor, false flag, nobody gives a shit scenario to the forging of the agenda of grabbing guns and turning this country into a surveillance police state, which is on the books. Even if Trump is president, it'll still be on the books. Trust me on this. It'll just look differently. Can you think about how worse it would have been had these two events actually gone off? It would have been significant. Absolutely significant. And the reason why it would have been significant is because it's about numbers. It's a numbers game. Truth and hyperbole are ultimately a numbers game. Look at the Holocaust. The Holocaust started off with 150,000 people, roughly. By the time it was all over, it became 6 million. It's a numbers game. And when you have higher numbers, conflated numbers, it can move people's perception. 1 or 2 people lost, not a big deal. It happens every day. It happens every day in Chicago. Toughest gun laws in the country. Doesn't seem to hinder any kind of gun violence, fatalities, murder, none whatsoever. You bring that up and gun critics have nothing to say. Nothing to say. Except for maybe, well, if all guns were illegal, it would stop. That's just bullshit. Sorry. Bullshit. Guns will always be made. They'll always be manufactured. They will never be shut down. And they will find their way into the hands of the criminals. It always happens. They have the most money in order to wreak havoc, violence, enforce their drug trade, whatever they need. It will always happen. And we all know that the drug trade is in cahoots with the police on a lot of different levels. There's enabling that's going on all the time. So let's just disabuse ourselves of those notions. But anyway, the numbers game would have been huge. What happened? He stepped away, or he has such a weird moment in his consciousness that he's driving around Santa Monica in a daze and gets pulled over. Not sure which, but it doesn't happen. So let's just think about this. We decided on this show that we were going to have an event where somebody walks away and does something different. Okay? I'm just bringing it up. Is it coincidence? Maybe. But this is where we have our power. This is where our true power lies. This is where our true power exists. It is in the power of intention, focus, committed, concentrated attention. Intention. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody gets hurt. That is the key. Nobody gets hurt. There shall be no ill will done towards another. In the spirit of that, let's try this again. Let's open our third eyes collectively, right here, right now, and let us really intend in the spirit of love and compassion for the highest and best to come through in this moment in time and in the future, that a few more souls wake up, and that through their awakening process, they turn away. They turn away from the de-evolution of their path and ours towards greater love, greater harmony, greater facility of clarity of consciousness, freedom, liberation, becoming unyoked from the dark chains that bind them to others and their agendas. Let us free these people through our intention and through their freedom. Let their act of civil, spiritual consciousness disobedience for that which is not in alignment with life and God Almighty, let them turn away from that and just come to the light. In so doing, we are able to further the awakening process. And more light is cast on the shadows of our experience, collectively and personally. Because who are these people out there doing this thing? They represent parts of us. They represent the unawakened parts of us, the fearful parts of us. The parts of us that want to control and maintain, not just control, but an ironclad grip on reality. This is what we're talking about. And as they lose their power, their effect, their hold on this world, then consequently we begin to dissolve and surrender to the other structures in our lives that we desperately want to hold on to, but we can't. We become more free as a result of that. So let it go forth. Let it go forth and resonate into this world for each and every one. All right. We've got about 19 minutes left in today's show. I will probably not be on the air on Sunday night, ? I might be. That said, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. I just told you about the interview on Off Planet Radio with Randy Mons and Emily Moyer. You can find that on Facebook, and you can just search on YouTube. I also have, if you have difficulty listening to the shows, we're going to be putting them up a day after each show now on YouTube. So if you have an issue with Blog Talk, just wait a day. 24 hours later, this show will show up on YouTube. We've got 5 of them now that are on YouTube. And the big ticket item here is the 11th House Academy, which has gone live. So the 11th House Academy is a soup to nuts course on learning astrology. And it's basically astrology as I experience it, live with it, use it, understand it. A lot of it is familiar with people that are engaged in the Western mundane tradition, and some of it is a little bit different because I do things a little bit differently. That's available on the site, and we're going to be having our first webinar at the end of July. If you want to be a part of that, that's included. You also get a chart. You also get a natal report as well. Lots of goodies here, very affordable. That's all I'm going to say about it. Go to my website, robertphoenix.com, check it out, and if you like it, you'll be guided through a sign-up process through gumroad.com, and you'll get it immediately. It's yours. You get to keep it. Okay? All right, so why don't we end it there? A little bit early today. It's quality, not quantity, as they say. We're going into the 4th of July weekend. It's going to be a very interesting weekend. You know, this Juno craft is going to be crashing into Jupiter on 4th of July. How utterly symbolic is that? This Juno craft. The last time we had this done was, it was back in, the 90s, late 90s? Bill Cooper was talking about this and how they fired a rocket into Jupiter, and the rocket was called Lucifer because they wanted to ignite Jupiter and create a second sun. How insane is that? And I believe that Jupiter is primed to be the second sun in our solar system. If our sun ever switches off or starts to power down, Jupiter will come on. You mark my words on that. So Juno crashing into Jupiter on Monday. We'll talk about that maybe on Sunday night show. I'll definitely be writing about it between now and then. All right. Thank you, everybody, for checking in, listening in. I want to thank Cary Buchanan one more time. You can find her on Facebook. She's one of my Facebook friends. Or Cary Buchanan, Psychic, Facebook. If you want to have another reading with her or a reading with her, period, end of story. So we know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. Here it's Philip K. Dick, riffing about the Mandela effect. Have a great weekend. God bless America.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.